Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. God bless you. I'm glad you all are joining us this morning. I know it was a little different. I'm working on some things here and trying to get some things done, making sure that we're coming out okay. Let me say good morning to everyone who's already chimed in. I know there was a little bit different music. Had to kind of go to a different format just for a little bit. I'm trying to make sure that we don't have any problems today. We had some technical difficulties on yesterday, and you know that always puts me in a bad place every time we're experiencing some technical difficulty. I see here's one of the things that I already haven't done. I failed to bring myself in live. How about that? I failed to bring the picture in, but I trust and pray that you all are hearing me okay and that everything is going well. Again, good morning. Good morning to all of you. I haven't gone through the roll call this morning, but I guess I could. Lachelle Slaughter, Joyce Lee, Tish H, Jackie Davis, Watkins, Angela Proctor. God bless all of you. Natasha uh, tuned in. Vera, Patricia, Lachelle, God bless all of you. Terry, God bless you. Christine Gordon, God bless all of you this morning. So delighted that you've taken the time to join us this morning. And again, I want to apologize for the technical difficulties that we had on yesterday morning. You know, I tell you all the time, we just can't ever put a whole lot of stock in electronics. You know, electronics will do whatever it is they want to do at whatever time. And sometimes you have to just try to go with the flow, do something different. But because we couldn't get that situation worked out on yesterday the way we wanted it to, I kind of had to use a different means of coming to you this morning. And so if I seem a little bit discombobulated, don't worry, I'm going to pull it all together. We're going to have a great time this morning. Just want to give some people a little bit more time to come in, and then we're going to jump right into what we want to share with you on today. I hope you've been having a great week. I hope you've had a great week. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Those of you that are still popping in, Patrina Jones, Lamont Good, Sister Gail Cowley is in the house. God bless you. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm really excited about what I'm going to share with you this morning. I know it's going to be a blessing to you. While we're waiting for others to come in, I just want to encourage those of you who may be coming on for the first time. You've never joined in on this morning inspirational time, or this is the first time that you've been on our YouTube channel altogether. I want to encourage you to hit your subscribe button, hit the subscribe button, subscribe to our channel. Make sure you turn on your notifications. That way you will receive all of the notifications that go out with regards to allowing you to know or letting you know when I'm on, when I'm sharing. Because again, as I've stated on so many occasions, I don't want you to miss anything that God has for you. I don't want you to miss any of these wonderful blessings that God has for you. There's a word that you can receive. And when I'm talking about a word, I'm not talking about necessarily being preachy. I've explained this on so many occasions, but I repeat myself for those that are coming on for the first time so you can understand what this format is really all about. Let me say good morning. Good morning. I see First Lady is in the house, in the house, in the house. Good morning, First Lady. Y'all know I always take the time to acknowledge her, my help, my partner, my love, my boo, all of that. I want to always acknowledge her. Kendra Wright, Tisha Hillman, Donna Stevenson, Patrina Jones, Lamont Good, Yolanda Goodwin, Tim Anderson, Miss Sonia. Good morning to all of you. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Just a few more minutes, just a few more minutes. Going to give people time to get locked in here, and we're going to get rolling. I don't know how much more time I want to give, but Andrea Blesso just checked in with us. God bless you. Good to know that you're with us this morning, little sister. God bless you. God bless you. All right, all right, all right, all right. Well, I think that's enough time to let everybody get in. Those who come in later, they'll just have to get in where they fit in. But I'm really excited about sharing what I'm going to share with you today because I believe what I'm going to share with you today is going to trigger something in you that's going to change your entire perspective on how you engage with people or how you allow people to engage you. Today, I want to encourage you to learn to just say no. That's absolutely right. Sometimes we just need to learn to just say no. And I want you to understand that, believe it or not, at times it is okay to just say no. I want you to think about this. Do you ever feel as though most of your life uh, you seem to be living for other people? Anybody feel that way at times? Has anybody ever felt that way? You just feel like you're living most of your life for other people. Much of what you do is for the sake of accommodating other people, your family, your friends, church members. You ever felt like that? And it can be very, very, very trying. It can be difficult to go through life, navigating through life, when you feel as though you're living your entire life to accommodate other people. You're expending most of your time and most of your energy doing what they could very well be doing for themselves, but they find it more convenient to just dump it on you. Whatever their issues are, whatever their problems are, whatever their struggles are, whatever their lack is in life, they just bring it and dump it on you. And what's sad about that is that they feel that you should be unwaveringly obligated to fulfill all of their needs, their desires, their requests. Whatever it is they bring to you, they feel like they can dump it on you, and you should receive it with open arms and a smile on your face. And sadly, there are many of us who become conditioned to living under these circumstances with people just constantly bringing us stuff and just dumping stuff on us. You know, I know there are more people out there that feel like that. I'm telling you, and it can make life really, really difficult. Here's what you got to understand: people like that are literally energy drainers. They are just energy drainers. I just got to be honest with you. Sometimes when a person like that comes into my life and I start to see that that's all they want to do is dump on me and drain me of whatever energy or whatever, sometimes I get to the point where I hate to see them coming. I'm just going to be real honest with you. I know that some of you may have some people in your life like that you just feel like you just hate to see them coming because whatever they're bringing, it's not going to be good for you. It's just going to add to whatever stresses you're already having to deal with, you know. And they bring their stresses, they bring their situations, and they lay them in your lap, and you find yourself being drained. And sometimes your being drained is unconscious to you. You don't even realize how much they're draining you. All of a sudden, you're feeling sluggish. All of a sudden, you can't think right. You can't relax as you should. You can't sleep the way you want to sleep. You find yourself constantly thinking about things that possibly have nothing to do with you. Your mind is constantly racing. You can't even download and recover from your own stuff because you've got so much other stuff piled upon you that people have brought to you that you just find yourself just totally discombobulated because these people are drainers. And if you're not careful, you'll allow them to drain you of your drive and your energy, literally sucking the life right out of you. Can anybody relate to that? They just come, they're just life suckers. They suck the life right out of you. Now, I know that sounds harsh, but it is a reality. And because we want to present ourselves as being so loving, so kind, so compassionate, and you should, as a believer, you should be loving, kind, and compassionate. But I want you to understand something here, that it's okay every now and then to draw a line in the sand and say, hey, listen, this is as far as we go with this. I've taken just about all that I can take. You need to start handling some things yourself. Now, ironically, again, many of us allow this to happen in the name of love. Wow. And unfortunately, the drainers are the only benefactors of the love that's being shown. You're giving them all this love and attention, but how much love comes back to you? Now, I'm a strong believer that love should be reciprocated. In other words, if you give out love in some form, in some shape, that love ought to be returned back to you. Now, you might be saying, well, Bishop, everybody is not that spiritually mature. You're right. You're exactly right. You know, everybody is not that considerate of other people's feelings. The reality is some people are just downright selfish. They want everything their way, but they give no consideration to the well-being of the person that they are constantly pulling from, the person that they are constantly draining. They want you to meet all of their needs, but they care little to none about your needs. They're not concerned with what's going on in your life. As a matter of fact, sometimes when they dump on you, they don't even have the common courtesy to first ask you how you're doing. You know, they don't have the common courtesy that when they interrupt you at any time of the day to ask you, do you have time that we can talk? Can I share something with you? No. They'll come to you and say, I need to talk to you. You know, come with an attitude, come with a spirit of entitlement. And they do so because they have learned, and you've helped them to learn this, unfortunately, they have learned that they can get away with it. I have discovered that people will only do to you what you allow them to do to you. And if you are constantly allowing someone to mistreat you, to pull from you, to drain you of your energy, and you never speak up for yourself, then that's your fault. Oh, I just pulled up in somebody's driveway. I know this is a harsh reality, but when you allow people to treat you anyway and you put up with it and you seem to endorse it by never telling people that there are certain boundaries and lines that must be drawn, then that's your fault if you allow it to continue to happen. I just mentioned a word there that a lot of us very seldom use, and that word is boundaries. It's so important that we learn to set boundaries, not for just for ourselves, but for the people around you. It's okay. As a matter of fact, it is healthy for you to set certain boundaries. When you set boundaries, you have thereby set expectations. Letting people know, having them to understand that while you are loving, while you are compassionate, while you are considerate, while you are sensitive, there are certain lines that must not be crossed for the sake of your own well-being. That's right. That's not being selfish. Listen, let me ask you this question. If you're not going to take care of yourself, then who's going to take care of you? You are the number one person responsible for taking care of you. And unfortunately, when you're constantly putting out, you're constantly giving out, you're constantly expending your energies, you'll discover that at some point you find no energy left for just dealing with you. Here's a reality. Just because you're entertaining everyone else's problems and dealing with their situation doesn't mean that life stops for you. That's a reality. It doesn't mean that life stops for you. Life is going to continue to go on. Things are going to continue to occur in your life. There are going to be difficulties that you are going to have to continue to deal with. And really, it only makes sense that you would preserve some energy and some strength for taking care of your own stuff. Now, understand that I'm not by any means suggesting that you immediately become insensitive or inconsiderate or lose your sense of compassion for other people and not want to help people when and where you can. But what I am suggesting is that you should know your limits, know your limitations, know when to put a cap on something. You need to be able to identify when people have come into your life just for the sake of being leechers. Wow. Now, I know some of you are probably saying, man, you're talking to me today, Bishop, because I know that there are some people like that. There are some people that ever since they've come into my life, all they want to do is take. Listen, two categories of people in particular that I want to address right now, and they are the drainers and the drained. The drainers and the drained. The drainers are the people who are always draining other people of their energies, taking everything away from them. The drained are the people who are always giving. I want you to think about this. Which are you? Are you a drainer or are you the drained? Because I know we've got some people on the line right now who's viewing this right now that fit into both categories. And you need to stop and think. Ask yourself, am I a drainer or am I the drained? And you got to be honest with yourself. You know who you are. You know what you're most prone to do. Are you most prone to take or are you most prone to give? Now, the drained fall into this category of being drained either because they are gifted or because they are just givers. Yeah. Okay. What do you mean by that, Bishop? Sometimes when people know that you possess certain gifts and abilities, first of all, they want to get connected to you. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to connect to someone who's very gifted in a particular area. First of all, if you're interested in gaining knowledge in that particular area, there's nothing wrong with getting connected to someone who's very gifted. But make sure that you have pure reasons for wanting to be connected with that gifted person. Make sure it's not just for the sake of just draining or pulling from them all that is within them, while you have nothing, absolutely nothing to offer them in return. And I want to suggest to you that all of us have something in us that we can share with other people that will be a blessing to other people. You may possess a gift that they don't have, or something that they might be able to benefit from. If you're going to request of them their time, their energy, their help, and even now their service, be willing to return that back unto them in whatever form or whatever capacity that you're capable of returning it back to them. Be willing to do that. You know, find a way. Ask them, is there anything that I can do for you? And if there's nothing that you can do for that individual that you know of, in terms of the internal gifts that you may possess, your gifts or your talents, maybe you can't return something to them in that form, but maybe you can return something to them in a form of a tangible gift. Well, look, I've been using a lot of your time, and you've been expending a lot of energy on me. Here's a gift card. Go get a massage. Here's a gift card. Treat yourself to lunch or to dinner, and make sure it's more than $5. Okay, especially when you've been pulling on them all the time. Now I know I'm making some people very, very, very uncomfortable. Someone once said that nothing is in life is free, and that's absolutely true. Somebody's going to pay for it on one end in some way or another, and so why do you feel as though you should go through life having a free ride while others pay the price for the sake of providing your desires, your wishes, your wants? Why should someone else pay for that and you have no hand in contributing to what you're receiving yourself? That's a good question. And let's flip that question. Why should you allow someone to continue to drain from you and they give you nothing in return? Well, I know somebody might be asking the question, are you really then giving to other people? Yeah, you're giving, especially if you're not charging the person. But hey, think about this. Before you jump off over into that charging thing and say, yeah, that's right, we shouldn't be charged. Wait a minute, hold up. Some things should be charged for. That's called business. That's called being in business. And we've got to get away from this mentality that we ought to be able to get the hookup at all times, meaning that, okay, you pay the price, I pay nothing, I'm hooked up, and you hung out. You want to get the hookup by hanging the other person out on a limb, on a ledge, where they're the only one that's taking the risk. But again, if you allow people like that to continuously operate like that in your life, that's not their fault. That becomes your fault because of your unwillingness to just say no. Now, I know many of you would agree with this. A person can only give so much without receiving a return on what they have poured out. They can only give so much. If you go too long without any return, eventually you're going to become mentally, emotionally, and spiritually bankrupt. You're going to have nothing left in the tank. And when you become mentally, emotionally, and spiritually bankrupt, it's hard for you to function. It's hard for you to accomplish anything because you have no energy to accomplish anything. Your mind is not functioning at its peak levels when you become mentally, emotionally, and spiritually bankrupt. When this happens, that's when you start to realize that you are literally being robbed of the joys of life. Wow. I'm gonna let that marinate for a little bit. Some of you really, to be honest with you, because you allow people to do this in your life, sometimes you find yourself teetering on the brink of depression, and you'll say stuff to yourself like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't. Again, you turn everything inward, and you never, for lack of a better term, you never place the blame on where it really belongs. I don't like using that word blame because sometimes when people start to blame everything and everybody else, they're really having a pity party. Here's a better word. You are reluctant to put the credit for what's going on where it really belongs. And again, I'm not by any means suggesting that people become perpetual blamers of other people. Because as I stated before, if you allow people to continuously operate like this in your life, it's really not their fault. You really can't blame them. The only person that you can fault is yourself. You got to find the strength and the fortitude to, again, say no, to draw a line in the sand, and to start making some adjustments with how you interact with other people. Now, I'm going to give you a very harsh reality in terms of this whole ideal of falling victim or prey to the demands of other people. Listen here, watch this. Most parents are most vulnerable to their children in this area. And grandparents, we take it to another level, are extremely vulnerable when it comes to their children. We do it, once again, in the name of love. I love my child. Yes, you should love your child. You should love your child, your children, your grandchildren. You should love them very much. But when you detect that they are perpetual dependents, I'm not talking about minor children, I'm talking about adult children. Adult children. Well, able-bodied children that at some point should be returning some of the love that you bestowed upon them during their formidable years while you were raising them. They got to get to a place to where not only are they taking care of themselves, but they ought to be able to bring a little joy to your life by saying, hey, here's something I want to bless you with, Mom. Here's something I want to bless you with, Dad. Here, I love you, Grandma. I love you, Grandpa. You've been so good to me. I just want to be a blessing to you. But some of us become perpetual enablers, enabling our children and our grandchildren to be lazy, worthless, irresponsible. I know some of you might be getting a little bit offended, saying, don't be talking about my grandchildren and my children like that. Well, I know you raised them. I know you loved them. But again, you'll say something like that. You'll keep doing what you're doing, but you're the main one fussing about what's going on or what they're doing to you. You're the primary one complaining. I'm tired of these children doing me like this. I'm tired of them every time they show up. If you're not complaining to yourself, you're complaining to other relatives. You are the enabler. Sometimes, by not saying no, We become enablers to bad habits and bad behavior. And in doing so, we find ourselves being guilty of handicapping a person rather than helping the person. So while you're enabling them, literally two lives are being damaged. Their life is being damaged. Your life is being damaged. And believe it or not, you find yourself really holding them back rather than helping them to grow up and to mature. Now, I know how some of us get caught up in this. We get caught up in it because sometimes children and grandchildren and other people around us, they can become real manipulators, especially if they know you're a Christian. You know, have you ever had someone that wanted to get something out of you and they appealed to your Christianity? Well, you're supposed to be a Christian. How about this one? I thought about this earlier this morning. I can recall when we were children, when I was a child in particular, there were times that maybe one child would have candy and the other child didn't, and the person that was eating the candy or had the candy, they had plenty, but they weren't necessarily willing to share what they had. And the person that wanted the candy would try to put a guilt trip on the person who had the candy by saying something like this: well, we learned in Sunday school you're supposed to share. You're not being like Jesus because you're not sharing. They were using the word of God as a means of manipulation to get what they wanted. Now, what they may have said might have been very, very, very true, but they only used it in the moment to manipulate the person or put a guilt trip on them so they might get some of what that person had. Adult people do it today as well. They'll say things like, you're supposed to be a Christian. You ought to be willing. You're supposed to want to help somebody. You won't even help me. You got all this stuff over here and you're not giving me anything. Well, they're not taking into consideration that you work for the stuff that you have. They don't take into consideration the scriptures that talk about if a man don't work, the man doesn't eat. And I believe the same holds true. If that principle is true, the same holds true from this perspective. If you don't work, you can't purchase anything. You can't have because you're not willing to work. There are too many people that just want to take shortcuts. How about this? Your adult children, when they're wanting something from you, you've given as much as you can give. You've drawn the line in the sand. You say, hey, I'm not going to continue to do this or whatever. And the minute you cut them off from giving them everything they want or meeting whatever need they think they have, the minute you cut them off, they'll say something to you like, you supposed to be my mama. No, the response there is, I am your mama. I will forever be your mama. And now I'm about to mother you by making you grow up with your 45-year-old self and start to become responsible. That may be tough love, but sometimes that's exactly what some people need. They need tough love. Don't allow anybody to lay a guilt trip on you. First of all, know who you are. Know exactly who you are. Be comfortable in who you are. Be confident in who you are. Be the person that God has ordained you to be. Now, again, I'm not by any means suggesting that you always just cut people totally off. That's not what I'm saying, because there may be some occasions where help is genuinely needed. Sometimes our children genuinely need our help. And we can give them our help. We can give them our help without becoming enablers. But again, you got to be able to recognize the sign when the situation is going beyond the level of being helped and rising to the level of being a perpetual dependent. You're not responsible for carrying a person their entire life. And you've got to come to grips with that. You're just not responsible for carrying a person their entire life. You know, I believe that God holds us responsible for raising our children into adulthood, for providing for them everything they need into adulthood. Yes, God holds us responsible for that. But at a certain point, you've got to cut those apron strings, and you've got to allow that person to sprout their own wings and make it through life on their own. Now, I will say this, in the midst of all of that, you shouldn't mind helping a person who shows an authentic desire and shows consistent effort on them trying to help themselves to make it on their own. All of us have gone through struggles, financial, mental, emotional. All of us have experienced some form of struggle in our lives where we had to lay back and rely on someone else to help us through a very difficult time. You know, when our children first launch out, starting their own little family and everything, sometimes they don't always make the wisest financial choices, and they may find themselves in a difficult situation where you might be able to lend them some help. Y'all thought I was going to say lend them some money. I believe that now, if they have the power to pay it back, lending is in order. But if you know that person doesn't have the means and the ability to pay you back, I think we still ought to maintain a heart of giving. We can give to others for the sake of helping them to achieve that which they're trying to achieve, especially when you know they are doing the right things. You know, those that are being irresponsible, who are wasting their resources on habits, drugs, alcohol, gambling, throwing their money away. Don't further become an enabler by when they find themselves having depleted their resources. Now they're coming to you and they're asking you to give of your hard-earned resources so that they might take your hard-earned money, blow it in the wind, or sniff it up their nose, however way they use it to get their thrills. You know, got to be able to identify that, you know, and be willing to say no. Here's another thing. Too often do some people allow themselves to become prisoners of their promises. In other words, you're promising too much. Listen, this is for the real spiritual folk out there, because sometimes we can become so spiritual that we live beyond the realm of reality. The reality is you can't solve everybody's problems. You can't fix everyone's broken situations. You don't have the ability. You don't have the power. You find yourself stressing out because you can't do something for someone that they should be doing for themselves, and you're working harder to find a solution or resources for that individual than they are. They'll call you and ask you for something, and You don't have it, and you might say, let me think about it. Let me see what I can do. Man, they'll give you 30, 35 minutes, call you back and say, have you come up with anything yet? And if you happen to have to say, well, no, I haven't come up with anything yet, they have the audacity to say something like, well, I need this right now. You know, you need to hurry up. Really? But once again, if that's what you allow, if you promise people things that you know that you can't deliver on, and you have a habit of doing that, I don't care who it is, who it's for, then really that's your fault when you find yourself frustrated, drained, depleted. Learn to say no. You know, again, I had to learn this as a parent and as a pastor. There I go again. See, some of you all, your eyebrows just raised up because some of you feel as though a pastor should never say no when somebody comes to them for help. Well, that's easy for you to say because you don't have to walk in a pastor's shoes. You don't have to see all that a pastor has to deal with, the many different personalities, the many different spirits, the many different issues. Now, again, I believe that a pastor should have a compassionate heart. I believe that not only pastors, but Christians, period, should help where they can help. But as I heard one person say, and again, y'all don't become offended by what I'm about to say, but I heard of one person tell another person who was trying to make sure they fixed everybody else's problems. And they were stressing out and finding themselves becoming even now physically ill because of all of the stress that they were taking on from trying to fix everybody's problems. They had a friend, a loved one, stop them dead in their tracks and say, hey, let me have you to realize something. You're not Jesus. You don't possess the power that he has. You know, you're not omnipotent, you're not omniscient, you're not omnipresent. And you can't take on everybody's burdens. Sometimes we just have to stop and think. We're not Jesus. I have to tell myself at times, I'm not Jesus. I can't fix it for everybody. My capabilities are limited. And if I let one person stress me out to the degree of me falling apart, then I'm no good for anybody. That the same goes for you. For those of you that have multiple children, you got more than one. You can't allow one of your children to pull so much on you that you find yourself having nothing left to pour into or to be a blessing to the rest of your children with. Mom is always frustrated because brother whoever is always throwing his problems on her. Or sister whoever is always dumping her stuff. They're requiring mama in her old age to take care of them when they should be taking care of mama. What about this? and you know, anybody that has grown up and you have multiple siblings and you all have children, everybody needs grandma to babysit every now and then, right? But if you got one sibling who's always dumping their 22 children on your mama, and by the time you come to ask, can she babysit? She's like, no, I'm tired. I'm tired. I can't do this. Now you're offended, and you're going to find yourself kind of being upset with your sibling with their 22 children. Y'all know I'm exaggerating, but I'm just getting you to see the picture. You're going to be frustrated because there's no room for mama to be of any assistance to you because of how much the other sibling has used and taken advantage of mama for so long, and now mama's frustrated and drained. Now, I'm talking about mama, but you might be that mama if you have multiple children, or that father, that dad. Same goes for him as well. You might be that person simply because you're unwilling to say no at times to this one particular child. And I know some of you might say, well, this one needs more help than others. You got to be careful about that as well. Got to be careful because you're assessing what you believe to be a need for one and just a luxury for another. And that may not be the reality. The one that you think is just desiring your help for the sake of a luxury may really be the one who's in need. They're just not willing to demand your help the way others have. So you got to be real careful. Know when to say no, but also know when to say yes as well. Now, I hope you all have really come to understand throughout all this that, again, while you have to draw the line in the sand and say no at times, yet remain open to reasonable yeses. Remain open to that. Be willing to help. Be willing to share love. Some of the things that we say no to, we need to learn how to say yes to. For instance, some of us will quickly say no to the things that be of God and yes to everything that may prove to be very ungodly. Why? Because you're more interested or more concerned with impressing somebody rather than pleasing God. If you're going to say no to anybody, never allow that no to be to God. The only thing we ought to have for God is a yes. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Whatever it is you desire for me to do, yes, Lord, I'm open and I'm willing to do it. And you know what? Sometimes God comes along and tells you to say yes to the person that you've been accustomed to saying no to. Because God knows situations better than we can ever imagine to know situations. God knows who's in need of help and who's just looking for a handout. And God wants us to be good managers, good stewards of our time, our energies, and our resources. And that means not wasting things away. The Bible talks about not casting your pearls before the swine. And I know we normally associate that with giving the word of God to someone who is rejecting the word of God. But I believe there's another principle in there. There's a principle wherein that we can conclude that God doesn't want us to throw good after bad. In other words, we shouldn't waste things. When we know something is going to be wasted or misused, we shouldn't be quick to contribute to waste or misuse. Not even in the name of Christianity. Now, again, the Bible is very clear in terms of us being of help to other people. For instance, I believe on one occasion, Jesus says, if your brother asks for your coat, give him your cloak also, the inner garment and the outer garment. Go the extra mile. But Jesus was referring to someone who was really in need and not just someone who was wanting to drain that individual of their possessions or take advantage of them. He was talking about having a compassionate heart to the degree that you're willing to go above and beyond the call of duty. Can you imagine that? That's food for thought. That's food for thought. How many of you can really say now that I feel better now? I don't have to live with a guilt trip when I start to draw boundaries, when I start to say no. I don't have to be the victim of someone's criticisms, or they're judging me and saying that I'm this, that, or the other way simply because I don't acquiesce to their requests. It's okay at times to say no. And as you begin to say no, you'll find out that you'll begin to help people. You'll help yourself. People are not going to be happy with you initially. But if they're a mature individual, they'll come to the realization that sometimes saying no is the best thing that can happen to an individual, having someone tell them no. God tells us no at times for the sake of our own well-being. Sometimes we think we want something really, really bad, and God says, no, this is not what you need. This is not what I've ordained for you. If I open this particular door to you, it's going to do you more harm than good. And initially, we may not understand it, but as time goes on and things start to become revealed, we come to understand what God did. We understand it in retrospect. We start to consider, if God hadn't done it this way, I don't know where I would have wound up. And so if God is willing at times to tell us no for the sake of our well-being, then we ought to be willing to tell others no for the sake of their well-being. Well, to be honest with you, this is really just part one in this whole thing of just say no. I'm going to come back later and come at you from another perspective with regards to just saying no. I hope some of you have really, really gained a different perspective on saying no. How about it? Has this been a blessing to you? Has this enlightened you? Has this really, really helped you? Some of you right now, you're exhaling, you're saying, whew. Yeah. Now, be ready for the backlash when your friends, your family, and your loved ones realize that you've gained a new perspective on saying no. Some of them are going to get upset with you. Some of them are going to threaten to withhold their love from you. Sometimes children and grandchildren will threaten to stop claiming you. It's okay. They'll be all right. They'll return to their senses. As a matter of fact, at some point they'll realize that, as the old folks used to say, that honey draws flies or honey draws bees, whatever. It's attractive, all that other stuff. Well, I guess bees would be more appropriate because flies, they seem to be drawn to anything. Y'all know that to be the truth. Yeah, so let's use bees instead of flies. As a matter of fact, bees actually produce honey. The whole idea was, it's better to be nice. It's better to be sweet. It's better to approach with humility rather than giving people ultimatums and trying to put a guilt trip on somebody if you really want to win and gain favor. It's something to think about. Well, y'all, it's been a joy and a pleasure once again. And I hope this has tremendously blessed you. God bless you. God bless you. I want to hear testimonies moving forward of how this one particular thing, this one particular principle that I've shared with you today has transformed your life, how it's wound up being a true blessing to you, how it's allowed you to lift some heavy loads and some heavy burdens off of you, clear your mind, clear your thinking. to give you emotional peace, mental peace. I want to hear from you at a later date. One of these days, we're just going to come on. We're going to have chat room testimony where people are going to share their testimonies. They'll have to be brief. Just put up there. You know what? God delivered me from this. God changed my perspective on that. I have a different outlook on life because of this. I'm now blessed because of that. I have peace on my job, joy in my heart, peace in my home. Everything is looking much greater now. It's looking much better because of how I've been blessed by the word that has been shared each and every morning. I'm looking forward to that. We're going to have that day and time where we just have testimony in the chat room. All right. God bless you. Well, again, it's been a wonderful joy and a pleasure. And for those of you that are on here for the first time, once again, if you have not hit that subscribe button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you turn on your notifications so that you might receive notifications every time we come on and receive a word anytime that God places it in my spirit to share with you. I look forward to you joining us this Sunday morning for our virtual worship. Again, it comes to you live right here on this YouTube channel. And I encourage you to share this with your friends, your family members, your coworkers. Share it with a stranger if you like, and just encourage them to come on and be a part of our time together. Family, I love you. God bless you. And I look forward to being with you once again the next time we come together. Have a blessed and wonderful day.